started as a high-profile trial already dripping in scandal. Allegations of sex trafficking, manipulation, and violence aimed at one of the most powerful men in hip-hop, Sean "Diddy" Combs. But just 4 days into the courtroom drama, the case detonated into something far darker. The name Prince, the legendary artist, the symbol, the icon, was suddenly back in headlines. No one expected it. The courtroom, packed with reporters and legal analysts, fell into stunned silence as singer Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner, took the stand. Her testimony wasn't just emotional, it was explosive. According to Cassie, the story behind Prince's 2016 death wasn't what the world had believed for years. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't addiction. It was, in her words, a murder. And at the center of it all, Diddy. But no one was ready for what came next. When Prince Rogers Nelson was found lifeless in an elevator at his Paisley Park estate in April 2016, the world mourned a legend lost too soon.
It causes an outpouring of grief worldwide.
Prince was like everything to me growing up. He got me through my middle school, he got me through my high school, my ups and downs. He was a hell of a musician. He played 14 instruments. He wrote all of his own music. Gifted musician. He was a gifted person.
In public gatherings and online forums, people pay tribute to Prince.
The official cause? A fentanyl overdose. Authorities called it a tragic accident. No foul play, no questions asked. And because it was Prince, a mysterious genius who kept his personal life fiercely private, the story faded into a familiar Hollywood ending. But something never sat right. Prince wasn't a known drug user. He was health-obsessed, a vegan, and openly critical of substance abuse in the industry. Friends described him as disciplined, even paranoid about being drugged.
And let me tell you something, man. You know, the drug scene, he was totally against it. Cigarettes, anything. From when I heard that, immediately it hit me different. I was like, yo, Prince?
Just doesn't sound like him, doesn't make any sense. It was a surprise for pretty much everybody.
They were saying that he's an addict. I never saw any signs of any addiction. Like a lot of the stuff just doesn't add up.
How does a man like that accidentally take one of the deadliest opioids on the planet? For years, no one had the answer, until Cassie spoke. In her testimony, she claimed that Prince had been targeted, that his death wasn't just suspicious, it was orchestrated. She described a conversation with Prince at one of Diddy's infamous freak-off parties. He warned her about Diddy. Days later, he was dead. Coincidence? Maybe. But after what Cassie revealed, it didn't feel like one. But inside Paisley Park, investigators found something no one could explain. When authorities reopened the investigation into Prince's death, no one expected what they'd find beneath Paisley Park. Behind a false wall in the basement, a wall no one even knew existed, they uncovered a small locked wooden box. Prince's signature symbol was carved into the lid. Inside was what Cassie had hinted at, and what Prince himself had apparently feared for years. The contents were chilling. A sealed vial containing pure fentanyl, a stack of handwritten notes, and a USB drive labeled only with the date of his final night alive. Prince had left a breadcrumb trail, not for the police, but for whoever would dare to uncover the truth. In one note he wrote, April 18th, uninvited guests. The truth lies in the box. But this wasn't just paranoia. The recordings on the drive told a different story, one that couldn't be dismissed. Prince wasn't confused. He was cautious, calm. He recorded the events of that night in detail, describing how he feared for his life and had caught wind of something far bigger than him. And most haunting of all, he named names. What was on that recording would leave the courtroom stunned. The courtroom fell into an eerie silence as Cassie reached into her jacket and handed over a small black recording device. Her voice, steady and cold, cut through the tension. I recorded Sean's confession that night. What followed wasn't speculation. It wasn't rumor. It was Diddy's own voice, raw, smug, and disturbingly calm, describing exactly how Prince died. He bragged about how Prince had caught him on tape dealing with illegal business and had demanded hush money, about how he laced a glass of wine with fentanyl, waited for Prince to collapse, then ordered his right-hand man, Marcus Tate, to drag the body back to Paisley Park and stage the entire scene. Prince thought he could extort me, gave him a special glass. Fentanyl, quick and clean. He hit the floor, done. Marcus handled the rest. His voice echoed through the courtroom like a ghost laughing in the dark. But that wasn't all. Prosecutors then played Prince's final recording, found inside the hidden box. His voice was calm but cautious, as if he knew this might be the last thing he'd ever say. If I die, check my archive. Sean Combs isn't just throwing parties. He's running something darker. I have the evidence. It was the moment the trial stopped being just about sex trafficking. It became a murder case, and the victim was a music legend. With the evidence mounting, the trial took a sinister new direction. Cassie's testimony had cracked the case wide open, but it was what came next that sealed it. The FBI, now fully involved, wasted no time. They combed through every detail Prince had left behind. Journal entries, autopsy reports, even old surveillance footage. Then came the first smoking gun. A private security firm near Paisley Park had archived old footage from April 18, 2016, the night Prince warned about in his journal. At exactly 11:30 p.m., a black sedan pulled up to a side gate. The man behind the wheel? Marcus Tate, Diddy's longtime enforcer, in his hand, a bottle of wine. Inside the estate, motion sensors logged movement in the basement and living room at suspicious times. But here's the detail that shattered the old narrative. The front door was never touched. Investigators believe Tate entered through a hidden basement door, one only a few close associates even knew existed. Forensic teams found faint signs of tampering near the basement lock. No forced entry, just a clean, almost surgical infiltration. Inside, they matched Tate's fingerprints on the wine bottle, and even more damning, on the vial of fentanyl found in the box. It all pointed to one conclusion. This wasn't an accident. This was planned, timed, and executed with terrifying precision. Diddy's team tried everything to stop the collapse. By now, the courtroom wasn't just a battleground. It was a stage for a collapsing empire. Cassie's testimony, Prince's voice from beyond the grave, the security footage, the fingerprints. It all stacked up like a verdict written in stone. But the final blow came from inside Diddy's own circle. Marcus Tate cracked under FBI pressure. During a late-night interrogation, his voice shaking, he confessed, "Sean told me to bring the wine to Prince," said he needed to be handled. He claimed he didn't know what was in the bottle, only that orders were orders. But prosecutors didn't need a motive. They had the fingerprints, the footage, and now the confession. Inside the courtroom, Diddy looked nothing like the confident mogul he once was. The man who had built an empire off swagger and intimidation now sat silent, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. His lawyers scrambled for a defense, claiming Prince's recording was inadmissible, that Cassie's tape might have been manipulated. But it was all smoke in a hurricane. Outside, the world reacted in real time. Social media erupted. Rabash, justice for Prince trended worldwide. Fans who had refused to believe the overdose story finally had something they never thought they'd get. Answers. And they were angry. But inside that courtroom, Diddy's silence said more than any outburst ever could. He didn't deny. He didn't argue. He just sat there, a titan brought to his knees by a voice he thought he'd silenced forever. But even the verdict wasn't the end of the story. The verdict came swiftly, guilty on all counts: murder, drug trafficking, sexual violence. The sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted, but not in chaos, in relief. Outside, fans clutched signs and wiped away tears. After nearly a decade of silence, Prince had finally been heard. But for those who followed the trial closely, one truth was louder than the verdict. This wasn't over. In the final days of the investigation, as the FBI combed through Prince's hidden archive, rumors began to swirl. Beneath the basement, behind other sealed panels, lay more wooden boxes, each one marked with his symbol. No one knew what they contained. Recordings, documents, names. Prince was meticulous, almost prophetic in his paranoia. His final recording had exposed a murder. But what else had he uncovered before his death? Questions flooded the industry. Who else had Diddy silenced? Who helped him? How deep did the rot go? And if Prince was brave enough to speak from the grave, who else might have done the same? In the courtroom, Cassie stood silent as the gavel fell. But her expression wasn't triumph. It was something deeper, something unsettled. As if she knew what the rest of the world was only beginning to understand. This was just one chapter of a much darker story. Somewhere in the echoes of his final songs, Prince may still be speaking. Prince once said, "A strong spirit transcends rules." In the end, it also transcended death. He didn't just leave behind music. He left behind warnings, whispers, and hard evidence buried beneath marble floors and studio silence. He knew the danger. He saw the darkness. And even in his final moments, he chose to fight it. Diddy's empire didn't crumble because of a headline. It shattered because of a voice that refused to stay silent. A voice from beyond, preserved on tape, carved in journals, sealed in wooden boxes. A voice that brought an untouchable mogul to justice. But this story was never just about two men. It's about an industry cloaked in glamour but riddled with secrets, about the people we idolize and the truths we're afraid to hear, and maybe, just maybe, about the power of one person willing to document it all, even when they knew it might cost them everything. Because if there's one thing we've learned from this trial, it's this: the truth doesn't die with the person who holds it, and sometimes it only gets louder.